General Vraltek of the Dominion High Command had never been wounded, until he faced humans. It was supposed to be a symbolic campaign. A reminder to the outer colonies that the Dominion's reach remained supreme. The humans were a fringe species, relatively new to spacefaring civilization. Their military database was primitive. Their planetary defense systems barely qualified as regional threats. And yet, they endured. No, more than that. They broke the Dominion's best. Fleet after fleet. Planet after planet. With no true core world to fall back on, no ancient empire or endless resource vaults. Just fury. Just grit. Just the will to keep getting up when they had no right to. Vraltek knew none of this when the invasion began. He learned the hard way. The skies of Ganymede turned to fire the day he arrived. It was Dominion protocol to enter a contested system with overwhelming force. 3 carrier Titans. 7 assault wings. Dozens of hunter drones. Shield partitions rippling with graviton webs and entropy deflection. The humans sent a single ship to greet him. It didn't transmit standard code. It didn't reply to hails. It simply drifted toward the Dominion line. Silent, cold, dead-looking. Until it wasn't. Vraltek had reviewed the feeds 100 times since. The moment when the human vessel suddenly accelerated against physics itself, punching a hole through 2 Dominion dreadnoughts before they could realign targeting vectors. No lights. No warning. Just annihilation. Ghost-class weaponry, the analysts had reported later. Advanced kinetic tunneling. Phase-delayed detonation algorithms. Vraltek remembered asking the most important question. Why wasn't this in our human intelligence reports? The silence in the command room was more damning than any answer. What followed on Ganymede was not a battle. It was a ritual of humiliation. Dominion soldiers, armored, enhanced, genetically tiered, were picked off by human infantry wearing mismatched gear and firing what looked like chemically propelled weapons. But there was precision in their madness. Ambushes nested inside ambushes. Deception patterns that tricked even the Dominion's precognitive scouts. Terrain shaping. EMP traps. Even a neural virus that temporarily turned their own comms into human morale propaganda. One line stuck in Vraltek's mind. If you're hearing this, you've already lost. You just haven't stopped moving yet. His fleet held the orbitals. His soldiers took the human city in the 3rd cycle. But by then the humans were gone. Retreated into the moon's fractured catacombs. Underground tunnels older than the war itself, stretching miles through irradiated stone. And from that moment the war flipped. It wasn't about domination anymore. It was about survival. Vraltek's wounds came on the 7th cycle. A patrol team, 11 soldiers, advanced biosuits, drone backup, disappeared in Sector 12. He led the search himself. That was a mistake. The tunnels narrowed quickly, branching like a web. They were dark, too quiet. Even Dominion scanners glitched intermittently. And then, motion. Something flickered behind him. His armor flared. A shape darted through the side wall, through the stone like it wasn't solid. Pain lanced through his shoulder. He turned, sword active. Nothing there. Another sting. His leg. 2 more Dominion guards collapsed screaming. Then the whisper on the comms. Your tech's too smart. You forget to listen. Vraltek fired blindly. Nothing. Then heat. Flash. He woke outside the tunnels, thrown 10 meters by a directional explosive. Half his armor gone. The bones in his lower arm fused together in ways they were never meant to be. He survived. But barely. They found the human that did it 2 cycles later. Just one. No power armor. No advanced weapon. She was a demolitionist. Human rank, corporal. Barely 20 years old. 1 soldier. 11 kills. And she hadn't even tried to run. She had waited for them to come. They say the Dominion doesn't retreat. That's true. Because we never had the chance. The humans didn't just beat us. They rewrote the rules of engagement. They didn't defend territories. They defended ideas. They turned every loss into a lesson. Every death into strategy. And they made you pay for it. Worse, when we finally started adapting, the humans evolved. By the 3rd moonfall, they had built stealth corvettes entirely from salvaged Dominion wreckage. By the 6th, they were coordinating with no detectable comms traffic. We discovered later, they were using coded music pulses embedded in battlefield audio to trigger pre-agreed maneuvers. One analyst wept after decoding the first successful trace. It was Mozart, she said. They were making war beautiful. And beauty is the one thing we never learned how to kill. By the time reinforcements arrived, Ganymede had become a graveyard. Our own ships couldn't navigate the mine webs. Our soldiers wouldn't leave the carriers. Fear. That was new to us. Vraltek remembered watching the stars flicker. Thought it was sensor noise. But then the shadows deepened. A ripple across the black. Human ships. No ID. No formation. Just there all at once. Watching. Waiting. Predators who had seen their prey break and didn't feel the need to pounce. They knew we'd leave. We did. The Dominion never acknowledged Ganymede. Official records list it as a strategic withdrawal following mission closure. But Vraltek kept a relic from that battle. A cracked visor from the corpse of that human corporal. He had it mounted. Not as a trophy. As a warning. A reminder of the only war we ever lost where every soldier came home wounded, if they came home at all. Because humans don't fight to win. They fight to teach. And what they teach stays forever. The Dominion Grand Council was shaped like a spearhead. Not symbolically, literally. A three-pronged obsidian structure stretching 20 kilometers into the clouds above Citadel Prime, with its central tower ending in a blade-point spire forged from the remains of extinct star cores. Every part of it was designed to remind visitors of Dominion superiority, its history, its weight, its reach. And for General Vraltek, returning to it felt like walking into a mausoleum. He was not greeted with cheers. He was not saluted. He was observed, measured, eyed like a patient with an unknown contagion. The guards didn't speak. The honor guard was absent. He was no longer a hero. He was something far worse in the Dominion, a survivor of failure. Counselor Major Vyrain opened the hearing. Her voice was polished stone. General Vraltek, you are called to account not merely for your failure to subjugate the Ganymede insurrection, but for the deeper question we now face. Why are humans resisting us where entire empires have collapsed? Speak freely. But know that lies will be answered with revocation of your caste, your name, and your species line inheritance. Vraltek stood in the center of the curved tribunal. Alone. No aides. No defense protocols. But he didn't flinch. He raised his left arm, mechanical now, humming faintly with repair nanites, and activated the hollow feed embedded in his palm. A projection unfolded in the chamber air. Not a battle. Not a map. A face. Human. Female. Smiling. This, he said slowly, is the enemy, and you don't understand them at all. A murmur rustled through the chamber. He ignored it. You want to know why we can't defeat them? You won't like the answer. Because it's not their technology. It's not even their tactics. It's that they've already fought this war before. And they've done it better, to themselves. He turned slightly, addressing all three tiers of counselors now. Humans learned from pain. From loss. Not once or twice but across centuries. They burned their own world in flame and shadow. They bled across oceans. They engineered plagues and nukes and AI uprisings. They survived themselves first. And when they looked up into the stars, they were already veterans of extinction. He switched the projection. Now a battlefield. Desolate. But unmistakably human. He zoomed into a ruined Earth city, London perhaps, Paris. It no longer mattered. This isn't a Dominion strike zone. This was them. Doing it to each other. Before they had interstellar drives. Before they had alliances. Before they had hope. And yet, the image shifted. A single flower growing through a shattered concrete crack. He paused. Let the silence weigh down the room. They rebuild. Always. It's not a virtue. It's a reflex. Counselor Ream of the Technomilitarist Order barked a reply. Your sentimentality has no place here, General. The Dominion has fought and defeated dozens of adaptive species. Resilience is not unique to these humans. Our weapons eclipse theirs in both power and scale. Vraltek turned to him sharply. And yet, Counselor, we've never fought an enemy who knew they were outmatched, and attacked anyway. Who lost, and came back smarter. Faster. Meaner. Who don't measure victory by ground taken, but by lessons inflicted. He changed the projection again. Now Ganymede. The final days. Dominion soldiers trapped in a maze of ice caverns. A low hum building in the background. One by one the Dominion command signals went dead. They weren't trying to hold Ganymede. They were testing us. Seeing what we'd do under pressure. They recorded everything. And now, he stopped the feed. Flicked his eyes across the chamber. Now they're better than us at being us. Counselor Major Vyrain's tone sharpened. Do you propose surrender? The word echoed, poisonous. Vraltek didn't move. No. I propose truth. And the truth is, this is not a war we win by force. This is a war of ideas. And humans are viral. Their ideas infect. You wanted to conquer a species. What you found is a mirror you weren't ready to face. More murmurs. Some from junior counselors. Whispers of blasphemy. Of traitor. But Vraltek kept going. I interrogated prisoners, he said flatly. Human soldiers captured on Titan. Mars. Even from failed colonies. I expected fear. Begging. Bargaining. What I got was. He paused. Blinked. Humor. One of them offered me a riddle while bleeding out. Another tried to trade his own heartbeat data in exchange for a joke book. A third kept smiling even after I threatened to space his entire crew. Counselor Zane from the Economic Bureau leaned forward. And? They laughed, Vraltek said quietly. Because they didn't expect to win. They expected to resist. That was their victory. He accessed the final file. It was encrypted. Technically off-record. A Dominion field officer's log. Not his. One of the last from the Zenthra Expedition Force. Now gone, disbanded after a classified encounter with Earth-based infiltration units. The officer's last entry was short. I thought they were fragile. I was wrong. They don't shatter. They sharpen. The chamber was still now. Too still. Some of the older counselors shifted uncomfortably. They weren't used to fear. They weren't used to losing. But they were used to hearing truth when it could no longer be denied. Counselor Major Virane exhaled. Then what do you suggest, General? Vraltek looked up at the Bladespire window. Stars beyond it. We must stop thinking of humans as enemies to defeat, and start thinking of them as a force to be contained. A supernova doesn't negotiate. It doesn't conquer. It consumes. And the only way to survive a supernova is to get out of its way. He paused. Then stepped forward, abandoning all protocol. Or, we study it, learn why it burns, and hope that, just maybe, it chooses not to kill us. The chamber exploded into chaos. Cries of treason. Cries of truth. Security drones surged forward, but the Central Council raised a hand. Let him finish, Virane said softly. Vraltek's final words weren't scripted. They came from that place beyond survival. The one humans live in instinctively. We are the Dominion. We know how to rule. But humans, they know how to endure. And that's why no matter how long we fight. He closed his eyes. They are already inside us. The silence didn't last. Once General Vraltek stepped down from the Central Tribunal, the council erupted into three kinds of chaos. One faction demanded war. Immediate escalation. A galaxy-spanning purge of human influence. Another urged retreat. Quiet diplomacy. Isolation. Walls if they could be built fast enough. And a third, simply went quiet. Not out of agreement, but because they'd seen what Vraltek saw, and didn't know what to do about it. It was the first time in recorded Dominion history that a council session adjourned not with judgment, but with uncertainty. And in the darkness behind the chamber, in a secure vault with no name, a different meeting began. The real one. The shadow chamber of Dominion intelligence wasn't located on Citadel Prime. It wasn't even on a charted world. But from that place, agents and strategists, each genetically enhanced, memory partitioned and layered with anti-tampering psi shields, had observed humanity since first contact. Their director had no name. No designation. Just a mask made of obsidian glass and a voice like frozen metal. Play the footage again. The analysts obeyed. The final minutes of Vraltek's speech played on an endless loop, dissected from hundreds of angles. Body language, micromuscle tension, biometrics. One conclusion kept repeating. He wasn't lying. And that terrified them more than any battlefield. Sir, one of the intelligence strategists said slowly, our infiltration teams embedded on Earth, specifically within civilian constructs, have failed to destabilize their information channels. They seem to incorporate lies as part of their system. Disinformation doesn't weaken them. It strengthens their adaptability. The masked director didn't respond. Not at first. He gestured instead to a holomap. The spiral arms of the Orion sector. Hundreds of Dominion systems. And in the middle, a red, pulsing blot. So, humans treat chaos like a training partner, the director said at last. Which means we don't attack their structure. We attack their trust. A new plan began to form. The idea was elegant. If you can't destroy a structure from the outside, you make it doubt itself from within. And that began with Project Echo Veil. A targeted subversion protocol. Dominion sleeper agents, biologically modified to pass as human, were reactivated. Not to fight. Not to sabotage. But to influence. They would whisper. Infiltrate forums. Civil movements. They would amplify distrust between human colonies, between Earth and Mars, between soldiers and diplomats. And it worked. For 11 days. On the 12th day, every single EchoVale agent received the same message simultaneously. Not over Dominion channels. Not even via known Earth networks. It was burned directly into their retinal implants, through tech humans shouldn't have known existed. The message was simple. Nice try. Now run. 3 hours later, 78 agents were found dead. Not publicly. Not ceremonially. Just gone. Their bodies found in places that sent one message to the Dominion. We knew you were here. And we let you speak, until you bored us. General Vraltek was summoned again. This time not to the council chamber, but to the penumbra room, a meeting hall reserved for only the most critical state secrets. Where the Dominion's true architect spoke behind filtered air and gene-locked vaults. The Director of Shadows was there. So were the first strategist and the Warlord Prime. No aids. No robes. No ceremony. Only necessity. We can't beat them, said the first strategist without preamble. Not the way we're used to. Not with ships. Not with virus strikes. They adapt too fast. Too wildly. Vraltek said nothing. He simply nodded. Then we require a different battlefield, said the Warlord Prime. One they can't predict. But Vraltek's eyes narrowed. They want us to do that. You understand? Every move we think is brilliant, they've seen it already. They've lived it. This war is a rerun to them. He pulled up a map. One they hadn't seen. Because it wasn't military. It was cultural. The map showed music flows. Viral memes. Influencer spikes. Cultural anomalies in Dominion territory that correlated, perfectly, with proximity to human trade corridors. The warlord stared. They're not sending invasions. No, said Vraltek. They're sending ideas. He highlighted one phrase that had entered Dominion youth networks within the last solar month. Failure is just a checkpoint. Meant nothing. And everything. That phrase has no Dominion equivalent, Vraltek said. We don't fail. We perish. And now our youth are starting to question that. Silence. Dead, suffocating silence. That was the turning point. The real one. Because wars could be lost. But philosophies were forever. If the Dominion youth started thinking like humans, started absorbing their wildness, their humor, their refusal to obey fate, then the war was already lost. And no fleet would matter. No world taken would remain held. They'd win every battle, and lose the war for meaning. And then, as if summoned by fate, the final piece fell into place. A rogue Dominion scout vessel, returning from the uncharted rim of the Perseus Veil, transmitted a single encrypted message. It wasn't coordinates. It wasn't battle data. It was a confession. The captain had defected. Willingly. Not to human territory. But to human thought. I used to believe conquest was our destiny, the message read. But then I listened to their stories. I felt their grief. I saw how they hold the hands of the dying. And I realized they are not the threat. We are. And I refuse to be a weapon anymore. He ended with a phrase not native to any Dominion dialect. Just 2 words. I choose. The Warlord Prime stood in fury. We must crush this rot before it spreads. But the Director of Shadows didn't speak. Not for a long time. Finally, with mechanical calm, he turned to Vraltek. You've seen what they are. What they do. Then tell us. What is their weakness? Surely they have one. The room held its breath. And Vraltek answered with quiet, devastating certainty. Yes. They love. And they hurt because of it. But it's also why they endure. And why, even in defeat, they rise stronger. Because pain doesn't break them. It binds them. He looked up. Their weakness is also their weapon. None of them had an answer for that. Because it wasn't something you could destroy. It was something you had to understand. But for the Dominion, understanding was not conquest. And conquest was all they knew. The room was heavy with the weight of truth. The Warlord Prime clenched his fists, muscles twitching in barely concealed rage. The Director of Shadows, emotionless as always, simply observed. General Vraltek, for the first time in his long career, felt the crushing burden of futility settle deep in his bones. They had fought wars across star systems, shattered planets, bent races to their will through overwhelming force and fear. But these humans, they fought with something the Dominion had never truly understood. Choice. The defector's message echoed endlessly in the minds of the Dominion leaders. I choose. Choice was their enemy's core. It made them unpredictable. It made every loss a lesson, every setback a rallying cry. No battle formation could contain it. No mind control could erase it. And the Dominion had no answer. On Citadel Prime, the Council reconvened. This time the debate wasn't about fleets, weapons, or strategies. It was about existence. What would the Dominion become in a galaxy where humans thrived? Where their ideas spread like wildfire, igniting sparks of hope, defiance, and love? Was there room in the galaxy for a power that didn't just conquer, but inspired? General Vraltek stood before the Council once more. His voice was steady. We can no longer wage war as we did before. We must adapt or be consumed by an enemy that doesn't fear death, but embraces it to become stronger. A murmur swept through the chamber. The Warlord Prime growled in protest, but the tide was turning. Even the Director of Shadows, who rarely showed approval, nodded. Perhaps it is time to learn from them rather than destroy them. That night, in the quiet corridors of the Dominion's highest citadel, a new mission was born. Not a mission of conquest, but of understanding. A delegation was formed, composed of diplomats, philosophers, and select soldiers who sought not to dominate humans, but to engage with them. To unravel the enigma of choice, love, and resilience. Meanwhile, back on Earth, the humans remained unaware of the quiet shift happening in the Dominion's heart. Their worlds buzzed with life, with struggle, with the endless dance of survival and hope. They knew war had come knocking. But they were ready. Because humans fought not just for victory. They fought for each other. As the stars watched silently, the galaxy teetered on the edge of transformation. The humans, once seen as a threat, were becoming something else. A force of change. An idea that no empire, no matter how powerful, could imprison. And in that truth lay the final revelation. You can't defeat a species that chooses to love in the face of annihilation. Thank you for reading this story. If you found yourself drawn into this tale of unbreakable human spirit and the vast galaxy it challenges, I invite you to become part of this journey. Subscribe now and join the community where every story celebrates humanity's strength, resilience, and the extraordinary spark that makes us unconquerable.